Bureau and the Ministry of Finance reneged on their promise to revoke the tax bill. The National Tax Bureau illegally auctioned off the sacred land of Tai Ji Men. The land was illegally taken into state ownership. Where is the royal government officials' conscience? Where are justice and human rights? What is the truth about the Tai Ji Men case? Taiwan Supreme Court found Tai Ji Men not guilty of tax evasion or any other charges. The National Tax Bureau and the Ministry of Finance reneged on their promise to revoke the tax bill. The National Tax Bureau illegally auctioned off the sacred land of Tai Ji Men. The land was illegally taken into state ownership. Where is the royal government officials' conscience? Where are justice and human rights? The righteous people are united with conscience to defend justice, human rights, and peace. The righteous people are united with conscience to defend justice, human rights, and peace.
In Taiwan, we at Bitter Winter saw at work the Taliban of the National Tax Bureau or Taliban of the Administrative Enforcement Agency, 55-year-long persecution of a peaceful spiritual movement in a democratic country such as Taiwan. The Tai Ji Men case is internationally exemplary and important, and yet we plan to continue our campaign about it. Our voice will not be silenced until the voice of justice will speak and solve the case.
Good day, everyone. I'm Sherry, the host of this forum. Welcome to join today's online forum of 14th anniversary of the Acquittal of Tai Ji Men. The subject of this forum is Save Us from the Darkness. The news and reports of injustice Tai Ji Men case has been widely spreading on the media, press, and internet. This case won the court judgment, yet still suffers human rights and tax persecution from governmental tax agency for 25 years. Therefore, this forum is calling for international help to ask Taiwanese government to take action to fix the mistakes and return the justice back to Tai Ji Men. At the beginning of the forum, you have heard the song which gave you the quick understanding of Tai Ji Men case. At the end of the song, we saw the author of Bitter Winter magazine stated the Taliban of Taxation Bureau and Administrative Enforcement Agency in Taiwan, and she mentioned to continue to give the voice of justice until this case is solved. Therefore, let's watch an international press conference video where Dr. Massimo Introvini, the chief editor of Bitter Winter, and a founder and the managing director of the Center for Studies on New Religions, attended the conference and gave his voice of justice.
We asked you and those following us by Zoom or YouTube to be here today for a very important human rights case. It's now several years I have spoken in various fora, including international human rights events and academic conferences about the Tai Ji Men case. And I'm always afraid that some misunderstanding may happen, because I fully understand it will be a logical reaction to say that's a very complicated Taiwanese tax law, so let's take it to Taiwanese lawyers and they should solve it. But that's a total misunderstanding. It is not, and it never was, a pure tax case. As we said, it's on two accounts a human rights case. First, it's a human rights case because the first human right is freedom of religion or belief. And this case started in 1996 when there was a massive denial of freedom of religion or belief in the post-authoritarian Taiwanese context. Whatever happened in subsequent years derives from this fundamental violation of freedom of religion and belief, and continues to be, to this very day, a violation of freedom of religion or belief. As Willy Fautré said, it is also a violation of human rights because it's a case of administrative corruption. As the United Nations have recognized, corruption is a violation of human rights. It prevents citizens from enjoying their human rights. And so it's a serious problem of corruption. Even the US State Department, in their yearly human rights report, they praise Taiwan in many accounts, and rightly so, but they say Taiwan has a problem of bureaucratic corruption it should solve. And the Tai Ji Men case is a case where human rights of the Tai Ji Men community were violated through corruption. Is it a tax case? Is it a human rights case? But it's not an academic question, it's a very practical question. Because if it was a pure tax case, that's something to be solved by Taiwanese lawyers. Why bother to come to Washington, D.C. and discuss this case? Well, the answer is precisely because it's not primarily, and certainly it's not exclusively, a tax case. It's a case of human rights. It is an established, recognized principle that it is the right and the duty of the international community to protect human rights. And it's needed that the international community takes an interest, as it is doing, and takes a stand in the violation of the Tai Ji Men human rights in Taiwan. Let me conclude with a personal remarks. I'm Italian, and in Italy we have this expression of a dialogue of deaf people. Two deaf people try to talk to each other, but they cannot have a dialogue. So in this case, we have on the one hand, the Tai Ji Men dizzy. Many Taiwanese scholars from leading universities, they are not dizzy, but they have written about this case. And growingly, dozens of international scholars and human rights activists who have participated in conferences and seminars and webinars about the Tai Ji Men case, and they all say, look, it's a question of freedom of religion or belief, and it's a question of human rights. And on the other hand, we have the Taiwanese authorities which said, sorry, but for the year 92, the statute of limitation has expired, so there is nothing we can do. But this is false because it's an internationally recognized principle that when gross violations of human rights are acknowledged, the situation should always be rectified. And if there is no administrative remedy, there is always a political remedy. That we live in an historical moment when Taiwan needs a maximum of support from its international friends, but a precondition for this support to be effective is for Taiwan to put its own house in order and get rid of these ghosts of its authoritarian past, settle the scores of the authoritarian past, and solve the cases coming from the authoritarian past. And today, the biggest score to be settled, the one generating the most massive domestic and international protest, is the Tai Ji Men case. It is not because we are against Taiwan, it's the contrary. It's because we are friends of Taiwan and we want to protect Taiwan in a moment of need, that we ask Taiwan, please get rid of this problem, which is damaging you in a crucial historical moment for you. Get rid of this problem, get rid of your bad past, walk in the path of democracy, and solve the Tai Ji Men case.
Thank you, Dr. Massimo. We hope through the support from international scholars and experts, or even governmental officials, the fabricated case can be solved as soon as possible, and people will pay more attention to the human rights persecution. Now, let's welcome our first speaker, Lavender. She is a 16-year-old Tai Ji Men 弟子. Let's welcome her.
Good day, everyone. My name is Lavender. I'm a first-year high school student in Taiwan and a Tai Ji Men 弟子. The Tai Ji Men fabricate case is just like the incident of 228 in Taiwan and the real persecution of human rights. Although I did not personally experience the 1219 event of Tai Ji Men, and it really does not have much impact on my life as a student, but through the support and explanation of scholars and experts, I gradually understood the truth and the importance of this matter. Here is what I learned from books. Taiwan is a country that is proud of its democracy, where people have right of expression and selection and a nation governed by of the rule of law. The degree of democratization has been slowly getting better and better since the liberation of martial law period. The United Nations has a Human Rights Council. Taiwan also established the National Human Rights Commission in 2020. I think I am very happy to be in Taiwan, but since I heard about the Tai Ji Men case, I read the same thing in the textbook again. I can't help but thought the description of Taiwan's democratization. Is Taiwan really a democratic country? If so, the court has ruled that the monetary gifts we give to Shifu are non-taxable gifts. But the National Taxation Bureau issued a tax bill without evidence, and still did not revoke the illegal tax bills until now. Now, when I read about the beauty of Taiwan's democracy in history textbook and citizenship textbooks, I only find it ironic. Because of the imperfection of the legal tax system and the greed of the government officers, many people are still suffering. I have always felt that taxation is an adult business because I do not have income. Therefore, The unreasonable legal tax system seems to have nothing to do with me. But as a citizen of Taiwan, I must care about everything here. I love Taiwan and hope that Taiwan will be better, so I hope everything goes back to the right track and no more injustice will happen. Have you heard the story of a frog boiled in warm water? We live in our comfort zone, but we don't care about the corruption of the state system. For example, if the government did something that violated your human rights, like taking your home away and forcing you to pay money that you shouldn't, would you say no? I believe most people will. Therefore, I don't want the school to only teach us the unreliable fact. I hope that we can also pay attention to areas that need improvement. Because of the Tai Ji Men case, I followed my parents to Kaidagelan Boulevard and go to the street to promote knowledge of taxation, hoping to let more people know that there are many things worthy of our attention. Because I knew about the Tai Ji Men case, I began to reflect on the knowledge I learned. I didn't take it all in account. Many issues can be further reflected on. I hope I can do my small part to make Taiwan a better place, so that no more human rights violation from the government.
Thank you for your sharing, Lavender. Even though Taiwan established the National Human Rights Commission in the year 2020, many people are still suffering the tax persecution from the defective tax system and the greed of the government officers. Many teenagers are like Lavender. They find Taiwan is not entirely a democratic country, as school textbook describe. Hoping Taiwanese government implement the transitional justice, return the tax human rights to people. Next, let's welcome our second speaker, Louis Cheng.
Hello everyone, I'm Louis, a freelancer. I'm so glad to join this forum today. I'd like to talk to you about how to hold your original intention and keep your mind on the way to fight for fair tax. But let us talk about something in the Tai Ji Men case as an opening. In the Tai Ji Men case, most of us focus on two major parts. First, the particular policemen, tax bureau, and administrative enforcement agency officials violate legal norms publicly. Second, useless administrative remedies promoted unbalanced power of the tax bureau and the administrative enforcement agency. In the first part, whether for personal vanity or for bonus, laws violate acts damaged the people's trust in the country, broke the judicial prestige, built an unfair image between the people and the country. In the second part, because tax officials threatened citizens with tax investigations, they were forced to pay unnecessary tax. Some victims even needed to sell their assets before they really needed to pay the tax, because part of the tax bill amount must be paid before the petition as the petition fee. Or the tax bureau would let the administrative enforcement agency officials, as coercive as long as, sought victims' assets with unfair proportions. Even during the process of administrative litigation, without the professional tax court, and the tax officials were the tax teacher of judges. The result was obvious. In the Tai Ji Men case, even if they win in administrative litigation, even if they are innocent. Tax Bureau and administrative enforcement agency officials still sought their self-cultivation centers for bonus with an illegal process. Some of us will think it's just a specific case. Other ones would not like the Tai Ji Men case has such a top way to solve their problems. Actually, wrong. Can't you even conceive of it? Not only in Tai Ji Men case, thousands of people around this world would living in the same situation. They would not have a tunnel to yell out for help like us. In some Australian governments, tax and law would be two ladders held on the neck of those victims, forcing them to eat in front of the lions of the country. In fact, I'm one of the victims. So, how do you keep your mind or hold your original intention? All that we are doing right now would be the best gifts to the future world. We serve and follow the guide of conscience, come out bravely even in this hard time, ask the government to change, to be a democracy model of this old country. In this world, hear and sing. If this world, hear and sing. More countries change, then those victims will be redempted. All of this starts from our doings. Remember this, we are not only fight for ourselves, but also for this world. I would like to conclude with a quote from Winston Churchill. The only guide to a man is conscience. The only shield to his memory is the rectitude and the sincerity of his actions. For all of you and for those officials, thank you all.
Good talk, Louis. Yes, indeed. Just like the quote from Winston Churchill, the only guide to a man is conscience. Therefore, the conscience will be the medicine for saving people away from the darkness of tax persecution. Taiwanese government should listen to the voice of people, follow the conscience to fix the mistakes and correct the wrongs. As a matter of fact, the injustice Tai Ji Men case has already sent to the UN Human Rights Council and has received the great attention. Now, let's hear from Mr. Thierry Val, President of the Coordination of Association and Individuals for Freedom of Conscience.
During these years, we have been able to appreciate the international importance of the UN and what can be achieved with the UN bodies in the defense of human rights. Over the past 4 years at the UN, with the help of the organization present here at this conference today, we have repeatedly denounced the discrimination against minorities around the world. We have brought to the attention of the UN the discrimination of religious minorities in China, such as those suffered by the Uyghurs, a member of Falun Gong, and more particularly the dramatic case of the member of the Church of the Almighty God. Session after session of the Human Rights Council, we organized conferences, made written and oral statements, we held meetings with the state delegation, during which the victims were able to make their voice heard. In June 2021, we brought to attention to the UN Human Rights Council the case of the Tai Ji Men and the injustice they suffer in Taiwan. At this Human Rights Council, we denounced how the tax weapon was used to harm Tai Ji Men. In this statement, we enlightened and denounced the unscrupulous means used by the Taiwanese government in its attempt to destroy the Tai Ji Men movement. The use of tax weapons against spiritual minorities is unfortunately common practices in many countries, including France, which finally, after a struggle to denounce this injustice practice, was condemned by the European Court of Human Rights. In September, at the 88th Human Rights Council session, we renewed our appeal for Tai Ji Men. This time, we highlighted the confiscation of this Tai Ji Men place of worship by the Taiwanese government. This is another form of discrimination, just as serious, because a spiritual community cannot exist without a place of worship. Today, the situation of the Tai Ji Men can no longer be ignored in the world, and the Taiwanese government must allow the Tai Ji Men to enjoy their property, their place of worship, and to make their contribution to world peace without worry. The UN mechanisms allow civil society to participate in the improvement of our society, and it is important to continue to speak out against the unfair treatment of Tai Ji Men by the Taiwanese government. In 2009, Taiwan ratified the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, and the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. The ICCPR guarantees fundamental rights for every citizen, as well as freedom of religion or belief. The signing of the International Covenant is of paramount importance, but there is still a step to be taken to implement and respect the commitments made when the covenant was ratified. The model proposed by the United Nations is a balance between these institutions, the member state, and civil society. In these three components that ensure that the fundamental purposes established in 1945 by the Charter remain at the heart of the United Nations. Taiwan, like all other states, must find this balance with civil society and grow with it, not against it. It is in fact the struggle of the Tai Ji Men that we support so that justice is done to them, so that their contribution to a better, peaceful, and harmonious Taiwanese society is recognized. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Val. More global concerns and supports are welcomed and appreciated. It's in the nick of time for justice must be prevailed. The world's darkness is the illegal tax bill that damaging our human rights. In order to save people from the darkness, those who use tax as a weapon to harm people, to bully the human rights, should be condemned and be terminated. Now, let's welcome our last speaker. His name is also Louis, but this Louis is only 9 years old, and he has words to say. Let's welcome him.
I am a third grade student of elementary school and a Tai Ji Men 弟子. I have been practicing Qigong since I was 3 years old. I always have fun in Tai Ji Men. I played games there, and 师兄师姐 are all very nice to me. Since I was young, I used to promote tax reform with my grandma on the street, but I don't know what it means. My grandma said we were doing a good deed. When I grew up, I realized that we were hoping that the National Tax Bureau would stop issuing reform tax bills and stop making innocent people pay extra tax. This year, I went to Kaitagelan Boulevard on December 19, and I saw many people in Kaitagelan Boulevard, and many actors were on stage to talk about the Tai Ji Men case. I feel very sad because Tai Ji Men is a very good place, but it was cased up by the tax officials. I hope that tax officials can be careful. I'll let issue tax bills do not harm others by usually reform tax bills. This will make people become retailers of tax dissent, doing so that our country will make a progress. I hope that the President will listen to our voice and solve the false and fake case for Tai Ji Men as soon as possible and clears the mistake and give justice and innocence to Tai Ji Men. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis, for being so brave to speak out your voice of justice. Louis appealed, do not harm others by issuing wrongful tax bills. This will make people become victims of tax disasters. 9-year-old Louis calls on President to listen to our voices and solve the Tai Ji Men fake case as soon as possible, and correct the mistakes and give justice and innocence to Tai Ji Men. President of Taiwan is elected by people. The government carries the responsibility to protect the whole nation. Taiwanese government must make restrictions or sanctions to officials who break the law. Once again, to save people from the darkness, we adhere to call on Taiwanese government to fix mistakes and return the justice to Tai Ji Men. At the end of today's forum, let's listen to the song Human Rights for World Citizens in order to help Taiwan government to awake their conscience and fulfill the justice. Thank you.